All right. Sorry, a few minutes late here. Hey there, guys. How are you? We're having a little bit of computer problems here, so give me a few minutes here. I'm trying to get logged in here where I can see what's going on in the chats. I guess while we're waiting on the computer to catch up to me, I'll just go through the normal disclaimers. This is a weekly live broadcast. If you're new here, I do this pretty much every Thursday evening. Sometimes things get in the way and I can't make it, but most of the time I'm here Thursday evenings, 7 o'clock Central. And we just spend about an hour usually hanging out. And I don't have a topic planned out. I just do my best to answer the chats that come in live during the broadcast. Having some computer problems, so I may have a hard time keeping up with the chats today. Hey there, who's that? Braffling King. Oh, it looks like we're starting to work here, so give me a minute. Well, maybe not. Anyway, the only things I ask is you be let me start that over. The only things I ask is you be polite, be family friendly. Don't start cussing at people. Don't start calling people names. Don't be rude or any of those kinds of things. We can all get along, even if we disagree on things. It's fine. This isn't a political channel. Don't bring up a lot of political stuff. Just, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, be friendly. If you guys are having conversations with yourselves, that's fine. But again, be friendly about it. All those good things. Give me a minute here, guys. I'm trying to get caught up. Looks like the computer's starting to catch up to me. So, hey, Rhonda. Your phone's about to die, huh? Well, if you can hang out, then great. If not, I understand completely. Give me a minute here. I got to look around, see what I'm doing. All right, I think we're in. Good grief. Hard deal. Computer problems today. But anyway, we're back on. So, who's this? North Spoon, hello from Vancouver Island. Hello to you. And Liam, hello to you from South Africa. Joe from Hawaii and Chato Cantu from Texas. New Mexico Dust Bunny says, I missed the past 3 lives. Finally, I didn't miss it. Hey, Chris, have I started breeding rabbits for the season? I have not started yet. I'm debating on whether I want to breed these guys again because our babies grow out so slow. I may look for some new rabbits. Just haven't been able to find any yet, so who knows? Maybe I'll breed her again. I'm just not sure yet. I've been so busy lately with work and my side business, trying to keep up with YouTube videos and those things. Just honestly haven't had much time to think about it, but I'll get back on track, so don't worry. Who's this? Carolyn from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and Mark from Manhattan, Kansas. Aaron from Pennsylvania, Rebecca from Georgia. Boris, hello to you. Hello to you. Rebecca says, I guess I should say, hey, yo, hello, I get it. Where are we out here? Good evening to you, Michael and Heath. And Rhonda already said hi, but I'll say hi again. All right, Herman says, what's going on, Chris? Good luck with all your quail. Thanks for the info. From Midland, Texas. Well, you're absolutely welcome, Herman. Thanks for watching the videos. I'm glad that you're finding them useful. Jessica wants to know, how do you treat nest box eye in rabbits? I do have a video on that, but just to give you kind of a brief rundown of it, it's pretty easy to treat. I usually use it with you just want to clean the eye out real good is what you want to do. But what I usually do is brew a cup of chamomile tea with some honey in it, and then take the tea bag itself and use that to kind of clean the eyes out. And just wipe them gently, don't make it super hot, but warm. And wipe their eyes gently and just wipe the crud and stuff away from that. You may have to do that a couple of times, but that'll usually take care of it. So hopefully that helps. All right, Chateau says, it's 35, it's day 35. My doe has not kindled. Give her a few more days. Sometimes rabbits do go a little bit long. Usually it's right on day 30, but occasionally they'll go 36, 37. I'd give her till day 40 before I'd give up on her completely. Could be a false pregnancy, could be, who knows what could have happened. But if she hasn't had them by day 40, then definitely go ahead. I'd rebreed her at that point. All right, Will says, good evening, Chris. We're on our honeymoon in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and you're taking time out of your honeymoon to join a live broadcast. I feel privileged. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. And congratulations. Tell your wife, I'm guessing it is, that I said congratulations to her too. Bonnie says, I got my first litter today. Awesome. Congratulations. Dixon's Romping Rock Dairy. Hello from beneath the White Cloud Mountains here in Idaho. The White Cloud Mountains. I'm not sure what those are exactly, but hey, hello to you too. All right, Braffling King says, how do I increase my rabbit litter size? Mostly that's a genetic thing. If you've got a rabbit that's just having small litter after small litter after small litter, you probably just have to look for a new rabbit. It could be related to the buck, but most likely it's related to the doe. So I would start there. Give her a couple of tries. If she's a first-time mom, she had a small litter, that's okay. Give her another try. Usually they'll pick it up after a couple of litters. But if it's a continued issue, you're having small litters, and by small litters I mean less than like 6 or 7, then yeah, I would look for a new doe at that point. Wish I had a better answer for you, but that's pretty much it. All right. Horton Creek Garden says, good evening, all. So happy to get to 2 in a row. Well, thank you so much. And for joining, I'm glad you made it too. Brandon says, hey, do you know when baby rabbits start to drink milk less? Yeah, usually about 10 to 12 days, somewhere right around there, they start drinking less. They'll get out of the box. They'll start, nibbling on mom's food. But they're still nursing at that point, so you can't just remove them from the mom. But they will start reducing the amount that they take from their mom and start eating a little bit. 6 weeks is really about the magic number when you want to just remove them from mom, wean them off completely. Generally, they're pretty much weaned by that point anyway, so that's a pretty good time to do it, if that's kind of where your question was going. Hopefully I got it answered for you. All right, Michael says, the feeder you made, I can't find the feeder. Michael says, the feeder you made, I can't find the feeder. Are we talking about the quail feeders I make? Because, yeah, are you meaning you can't find the video on how I made them or something? It's pretty simple. I just use Tupperware style containers. The wider, the bigger, the better, so they don't tip over. And, you don't want to make them too great big, because you're going to waste, the quail can't get to it, but... I use a good square container like this or so, or a long, narrow container. I've got one in there that's about, I don't know, what is that? Like 12 inches, 13 inches long, and maybe 7, 8 inches wide, about that deep. And then just cut a hole in the side, big enough for them to stick their head through, and that's it. About, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches off, well, that's not 3 or 4 inches. That's probably 2 inches. About 2 inches up or so. Cut a hole in the side. It doesn't have to be very big, maybe a 1-inch hole, just big enough for them to get their heads through, and that's it. That's what I use for a feeder. You can just fill it up right to the bottom of those holes, and they'll stick their heads in there and eat and waste a lot less food. Hopefully that's kind of what you're asking. All right, Bubba says, hey, Chris, I hope everything's doing good. How is the garlic garden? Well, it's fine so far. No garlic has sprouted yet, but it's just been a couple of days, so it should start sprouting anytime now. But so far it's good. Nothing's uncovered. Everything's just fine. Rhonda says, we got 6 turkeys this week, and we bred our doe. And right, my doe, her last litter is almost 3 months old and still so small. Oh, yeah, I'm having that problem with mine. They just don't grow out fast, and it's been multiple litters. So I'm really considering trading her out for another doe. Excuse me, grab a drink here. Williams Family Homestead says, hey, from Chatsworth, Georgia it is. But we say roll tide at our house. Oh, well. Well, I think that's, is that an Alabama reference, I think? I'm not a huge sports fan. I am a Chiefs fan because I'm from Missouri. I got to watch the Chiefs. But other than that, I'm not really a big sports fan. So I know what that is, but I don't know exactly where it is. So anyway, Glow says, hey, good morning, Chris. Hope you and your family's doing great. My doe is supposed to produce 6 days from now. When I have when I have to separate them, is it gonna cause any problems? They've been together for 6 months. What, your doe and what has been together for 6 months? Your doe and supposed to produce in 6 days. We have to separate them. You're talking about like separating her from other rabbits. I'm guessing other does, hopefully not bucks, because you probably don't want to house your buck. But no, it shouldn't cause any problems if you have to separate them. I mean, there may be a little bit of, it's a stress factor because it's a change and all those kinds of things, but it shouldn't be a big deal. All right. Clear my throat here. Let's keep going. Will says, hopefully my son is taking good care of the quail while we're gone. Yeah, hopefully so. I'm sure he is. It's not too difficult. I'm sure he can handle it. All right, Kyle says, the quail I got from Kinfolk Farm in Georgia are doing good. Can't wait for them to start laying eggs again. Awesome. Congratulations on the new birds. I'm glad to hear they're doing well. All right, Todd. Hey, Chris from Crate, Illinois. My new mamas. I think there was more to that. My new mom. Okay. I'm not sure where that was going yet, Todd, but I think I'll probably get across the rest of it here in just a minute. Michael says, do you plan on doing more quail recipes? I should, shouldn't I? I don't know if I've planned on it yet or not, but I'll come up with something, I'm sure, and I'll share it with you guys. I'll see what I can come up with. Aaron says, if you raise quail for the colors, what would be your favorite color? Oh, boy, good question. I do like the looks of the tuxedos. I think they're pretty neat. Some of the silver birds out there are pretty cool. I'm not sure I could really say which one's my favorite color. I mean, my favorite right now is just the browns, the natural brown color, because that's the easiest ones to deal with. But that's not because it's my favorite color necessarily. They're not necessarily the prettiest of the birds, but I don't raise them for that reason, like you said. If I had to pick one color, though, oh boy, I don't know. I might go with tuxedos. I kind of like the looks of the tuxedos. All right, COD says, what do I do? I have a baby quail and they keep on dying when I take them off the incubator. Please help me. Okay. Boy, there could be a number of reasons they're going for that. You're taking them out of the incubator. Okay, first things first, make sure they're dry and fluffy before you remove them from the incubator. Don't remove them from the incubator if they're still wet or they still look kind of wet and slick. Make sure they're all fluffed up and all fluffy. Make sure you move them to a place where, like, you have a brooder box, a good brooder box with something they can get a good grip on. Don't lay down newspaper that's real slick. They'll have a hard time walking on that. They'll get splayed leg, and then they'll usually die from that. Make sure the brooder is warm, about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, at least at one end. Don't put it 100 degrees Fahrenheit all over. Put it at one end so they have a gradient. They can get away from the heat if they need to. Make sure your water is not open where they can get in the water. If they get in the water and get wet, it's almost impossible for them to warm up, and they'll usually chill and die from that. So if you have a wide water where they can actually get in it, put rocks or marbles or something in the bottom that keeps them from getting in and submerging themselves and getting wet. So those are the main things. Without knowing more details, that's pretty much about all I can do, I think. So hopefully that kind of helps out a little bit. Hopefully. Glow says, Chris, just made my heart skip. You just made my heart skip a beat when you said false pregnancy. My buck had 4 successful fall-offs. Well, and I'm not guaranteeing it's a false pregnancy. Give them, like I said, give her till 40 days. I don't know. Was that what we were talking about? But yeah, hopefully there's no false pregnancy. It happens from time to time, but it's pretty rare. 4 successful fall-offs, there's a pretty good bet that your doe's pregnant. You're going to have babies, so don't worry. Braffing King said last time she had 12. Who was it, Braffing, that we were talking about? I'm sorry, guys. I get when I'm answering these comments, I move on to the next comment, and then I can't remember what we were talking about before. So you got to kind of give me a primer. You know what you were talking. Was she the one that you're saying has low litter size? You want to see if you can increase her litter size? Because if she had 12 last time, yep, that was it. That was what we're talking about. Then, if depends on, okay. If she had 12 bunnies in her last litter, this litter was a small litter size, could just be a fluke. Don't worry about it. Give her another try. If it's a continued issue after that, it could be that she's getting old. I mean, if she's past about 3-4 years old, she could be aging out at that point. That's a good sign that she may be done being a breeder at that point. So, you just have to give her a couple of tries. And sometimes they just have a small litter for whatever reason. 12's a pretty good size litter, so I wouldn't worry about it. Todd says, my does had their first litters 7 and 10, first-time moms. Yeah, a lot of times they do. Sometimes first-time moms are a little bit odd, though. They have a smaller litter. They just don't know what to do with them or whatever. But sometimes they're just naturals, and they just, boom, 10 babies a first litter, and from then on, and they're perfect moms. It just varies. All right, Brandon says, thank you. You're welcome, Brandon. Michael says, I thought you made a video for a feeder for the meat birds. I did make a video, and maybe that's what you're talking about. You can't find it. I think it was called How to Reduce or Eliminate Feed Waste. I think that's what it was called, so you can search for that and see if you can find that. And I did a video on my feeders for the birds. Oh, are you talking about the meat chickens? Maybe you're talking about the meat chickens. Yeah, that was a pretty easy one to make, too. That was a 5-gallon bucket. I bought a radiator drain pan. It was cheap. It was about that tall and that big around, whatever. I put a board in the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket, put a screw through the bottom of that water heater. There we go, water heater drip pan and screwed that to it so it wouldn't fall off. You know, we'd hold it on there about in the middle. I gave a gap about, oh, yay wide between the edge of the bucket and the edge of that pan. And then just drilled some holes in the sides of it, maybe 2-inch holes. I don't know, as big as I had, hole saw. And that's it. Just fill that 5-gallon bucket full of feed. It spills out to the sides. They eat it. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I don't know what I called that video, but I will tell you, I stole that idea from Living Traditions Homestead. So if you can't find my video, you can go look for theirs. They probably got a video on it, and it's the same feeder. I just stole it from them. They had a great idea. I didn't see any reason to reinvent the wheel. All right. Miguel says, glad that I can get off work right when your live stream starts. Hey, and Team Coke. Well, Miguel, I'm going to fight you because I'm drinking Pepsi again tonight. But hey, I'm glad you could get off work too. Get another drink of my soda while I'm talking about it. All right, That's Life says, I have a batch of quail getting ready to hatch in an Incubator incubator. It's been hard keeping a steady temperature. Do you have the same problem? I don't have much of a problem. I'm not know a whole lot about the incubators, so it could be that issue. I will say that where you put your incubator can have an impact on that. So if you put it in a place where sun shines through the window part of the time and hits that incubator, that's going to warm it up. It's going to make a hard time for. I'm looking over at my window. I saw my head turn there. I had that problem one time where my incubator sits right over here to the left of me. You can't see it, but it's right there. There's a window right there, and I had the shades open, and I was wondering why I was having such bad hatch rates, and I finally figured it out. It was the sun coming through the window, heating that incubator up during the day, and it couldn't regulate very well. Once I closed the shades, and I don't have an air conditioner vent right under it that's blowing on it or anything, so it's a little bit more steady temperature in here, and the incubator did a great job. So those could be a couple of things that you look at. You may have to put it like in a closet or something to keep it a little bit more consistent temperature in the room that it's in, and that will help make a big difference on how well it regulates the temperature. So hopefully that helps. Hey, Rocky and Equilix, I think it is. Hey to you. Rhonda says, I can't wait to get eggs again. I should be getting eggs from my quail and chickens soon, but it just seems like it's taking forever. Yeah, it always seems like it's taking forever when you don't have any eggs, but hang in there. They'll come. Equilix says, I have a quail. I think he's a Coturnix. Well, it very well could be. Hopefully it's a good bird. I guess it's a pet, probably. So hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully you're enjoying that. Glow said, and when I said separate, I was talking about my buck and doe because my doe is okay, yeah. Don't I have to separate them before my buck produce? I heard the buck tend to eat kids. It's probably a good idea to keep them separate all the time. Honestly, if you don't, you really can't control the pregnancies. You don't know when it's going to happen, when it's not going to happen. I wouldn't house them together myself. I would keep them separate and just introduce the doe to the buck when you're ready to breed, and that's it. Move her out. But yeah, you're probably right to go ahead and separate before the pregnancy, before she has her kids. Give her her own space. Does can get very territorial. So, is really as much of a concern as the buck hurting the kits, which he could, is a concern about the doe hurting the buck. They can get really aggressive and really territorial. So it really is best to go ahead and separate her to her own cage. All right, Rhonda says, we got this one quail that is dark gray and white. Never had any like this before. I think it's kind of pretty. Yeah, sometimes you get some interesting colors, especially if you're mixing breeds, and some of them can be pretty cool looking. All right, Rhonda says, I know quail usually start to crow about 6 weeks. I'm waiting for it. Shockingly, I miss hearing the quail crow. Yeah, I always kind of smile whenever they first start crowing again. I don't know why, it just makes me happy. They sound like a songbird. I kind of like it. But yeah, I know the feeling. Equilix says, when will my quail be fully feathered? He or she is 13 days old, and the quail hasn't fully feathered, and its last couple of days, he or she got feathered a lot in the last few days. Yeah, it should be any time now. Usually 2.5 to 3 weeks at the most, and they should be fully feathered out by about that time. All right, Rhonda says, I'm wondering if because the litter was so big, maybe that's why it's taking so long to grow out. Litter size is 11 for my doe, and it was her first litter, and they all lived. She's doing something right. That's a big litter, and that's a lot of babies for her to take care of. So it could be the litter size that's impacting that a little bit. It also can be diet. I should say that if you want your rabbits to grow fast, the best diet for them is pellets, just straight pellets. So if you're feeding a lot of other things like grass and greens and all those kinds of things, and that's their primary diet, that is going to cause slower grow out rates. All right, Danny says, I started my quail cage today. Gonna be like yours, except for I have 16-foot 2x6s, so I'm gonna do a 16-foot long cage and make 2 out of it. That's not a bad idea. Everything else will be like yours, but gonna hinge sandbox on the bottom. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. I've had several people talk to me about hinging it. That's probably a great idea, honestly. I don't find it that big a deal to just clean mine out every once in a while. It's not that hard to do. You know, I don't know, a 16-foot long cage, that's a big cage. And if you ever plan on moving it, you're going to have a hard time. You might want to think about making 2 8-foot long cages instead of a 16-foot long cage, but that's just my thought on it. There's nothing wrong with doing a 16-foot cage if that's the way you want to do it. All right, COD says, I have 2 rabbits. How can I tell the difference between male and female? Thank you. If they're full grown, it should be pretty easy to tell. A full grown male, you know, it's pretty simple. If they're not full grown, if they're still pretty young, there still is a way to tell. I've got a video on that. I think it's how to sex or how to tell the gender of baby rabbits. Maybe I can't remember what I called it, but I mean, you look at the privates basically, and if it looks like a burrito, it's a male. If it looks like a taco, it's a female. But again, if they're full grown, you should be able to tell the male at least pretty easily. All right. Marie says, we just got 90 eggs today. Any advice on incubators and incubating? We have a little giant. Yeah, I'm using a little giant incubator myself, and it works pretty well. I don't have any issues with that. So you got 90 eggs today. Hopefully your incubator's already plugged in. You've got it going. I let the eggs rest overnight. If you've got an egg turner, go ahead and just set them in the egg turner and set them by the incubator. Let them set overnight, and then just put them in the incubator. Keep your temperature 100 and, well, it depends. It's probably a forced air incubator. And if it is, you want to go about 99.5 degrees. If it's a still air incubator, no fan in it, then you want to go 101 degrees. Let them sit in the egg turner for 15 days. Humidity is not as big of a deal early on, but if you can control the humidity, the hard part is going to be keeping it from going too high. So if you add some water to it, add just a little bit. And remember, humidity is based on surface area of the water, not volume. So if you've got a channel there, it's not going to raise the humidity anymore if you fill that whole channel up as opposed to just filling it halfway. So I would just start with filling one channel all the way up, see how that affects your humidity. You want it probably between like 50 to 70%, probably closer to like 60% at the most, is a good incubating humidity for the first, before lockdown. Lockdown starts on day 14, and lockdown means you take the eggs out of the incubator, you set them in the bottom of the incubator, crowd them all close together, it helps. And as close to the middle as you can get them. It's not as big of a deal though. And then you can bump your humidity up a little bit at that point, up to about 70-75%. You don't want to go above 80% humidity though. You want to keep it down around 75% humidity. And when you go into lockdown, you shut the incubator up. You don't touch it again until the birds have hatched. Once they start hatching, they should start hatching day 17, day 18. It just varies. You give them at least 24 hours from the time the first one hatched. You can go 48, you can even go 72 hours. I typically go between 24 to 48 hours, 1 to 2 days after the first one hatched, before I open it up and remove all the birds that have hatched. You're gonna have probably a whole bunch of them that hatch all at once. Try to look in there and make sure that there's no birds that are wet or any of those kinds of things. Wait till they're dry and fluffy. Try not to open the incubator if you've got birds that have pipped the shell but haven't hatched out yet. Like they've put a hole in the shell, but they're not hatched out of the egg yet. Try not to open the incubator. You might have a jug of warm water, as close to 99 degrees as you can get it. So you can add water to the incubator if you need to at that point, because your humidity is probably going to be dropping back down at that point. But that's pretty much it. I've got a whole series on incubating eggs. If you want to go check that out, you can go to my my YouTube page on here, and it's one of the playlists that I've got. It's like hatching and storing eggs. You can go check that out. It walks you through the entire process. So hopefully that kind of gives you a good breakdown of that, and that's basically the incubation process, though. All right. Hey to you, Mr. Messia, I think it is. Rhonda says, I always have an issue during season changes with keeping humidity in the incubator because the temp changes in the house. Yeah, that can be an issue. My biggest issue is that our air in the wintertime is much drier than our air in the summertime. In the summertime, I usually don't have to add really any water to my incubator. In the wintertime, it's different, though. I have to add water to it because the humidity, it's just so dry out. I mean, my hands start drying out. My thumbs start cracking because it's just, I put lotion on my hands. and that affects my incubator humidity as well. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not so much that the temperature changes in the house, it's just the dry air. All right, Bob says, my 9-week-old jumbo Coturnix roosters crow all night. Is this normal? I have an outside hutch like yours. I think they're waking up the neighbors. Hopefully they're not. I mean, they're not terribly loud, and they sound a lot like a songbird. But yeah, you don't want them crowing all night long. Here's the good news, is that they do tend to calm down after a week or two. That when they first start crowing, think of them as like teenagers. I mean, they're just all amped up on hormones. They're just crowing like crazy trying to find a mate. They'll calm down after a week or two. Also, if you've got them in an area where... My dog is going crazy. Max! Hush, hush, hush. Hang on a minute, guys. I gotta let the dog out. Oh, there's somebody at the door. Hang on. I'll be back. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I am back now. Had to take a break and go answer the door. But we're all back. So, all right, where was I? 9-week-old. Okay, yeah, back to you, Bob. 9-week-old, is it normal? It's not necessarily normal for them to crow all night long, but again, where was I going with that? Oh, if you have them in a place where there's a light, like a street light hitting it or something like that, that's keeping it kind of lit up during the day, if you put some tarps or something over it to block the light at night, that'll calm them down usually. If they have light, they're going to crow. If they don't have light, they usually just go to sleep. So that could be something you could try. You know, maybe your neighbor has a porch light that's on that's shining on your hutch or something like that. That could be part of the reason that they're crowing all night long too. So blocking the light from them, giving them some darkness, and just wait a week or two. They're going to calm down. All right. Aaron says, the tuxes are very cool looking. I'm a big fan of the silvers and German pastels. Those are pretty birds too. I agree. Colleen says, how to catch flies at my Ravage cage. I have a lot of flies. I don't have a huge problem with that. I have the black soldier flies that just they lay their eggs and their larva stays in where was I going with that? Their larva stays in the manure piles and it just kind of keeps the flies away, which is nice. You know, you could put fly traps out. I don't know where you live, but we're going into winter, so the flies are going to die off anyway, basically, and it's not going to be a big problem for winter. You might look at fly predators. I hear really good things about those. If I had bad fly problems, I would do that. There's a certain little bug that basically targets the fly larva, and I hear they can make a big impact on your fly population. So it may be something you want to look at for that as well. All right, and I've used fly tape before. It does a pretty decent job, but if you've got a lot of flies, it's not going to make a big impact. I don't know that anything is, honestly. It's just hard to keep up with that. But if you can find a natural predator for them or something like that to keep them in check, that's the best way to go if you can do it. All right, where are we at here? Mr. Macias says, it's been a long time since I attended a live stream. Well, hey, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate that. Rhonda says, I usually give pellets and hay, and I did remember you saying that it actually stopped the hay today. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with hay. I give hay to my rabbits too, but if you really want the absolute best growth out of your rabbits, it's pellets. Straight pellets, that'll do it. I don't think it's going to hurt them to have a little bit of hay. I kind of think they probably need a little bit of hay from time to time. That good long forage, fiber, I think is good for their digestion. Grab another sip here. Bonnie, do I need to put my doe on higher protein now since she's kindled? She's currently on 16% protein feed, or keep her on the same as she's on? I don't think it really makes that big of a deal. You can boost up the protein if you want to. I usually feed I think it's a 19% pellet, but I feed that all the time. I don't change it whenever she's pregnant or nursing or any of those things. 16% is a pretty good protein level. That's not going to hurt her at all. If you've got the option to go with a little higher protein, I don't think it's a bad thing either. So either way, you're going to be fine. All right, James says, is it still light there? No, it's dark. It gets dark about 7 o'clock-ish now. The days are starting to get shorter. We'll have daylight savings time here before long, and then they'll stay light a little bit later for a little while longer. Sloth says, my ducks and quails are supposed to hatch in the same day in the same incubator. Will the duck harm the quails? I don't know. I've never tried to incubate ducks and quails. I would think that they might. I mean, they're awful big. I think if nothing else, they might trample them, but I may be wrong. All right, Rhonda says, I'm done with hatching eggs until March. Too cold here in Ohio. Yeah, I debated on doing another hatch, but yeah, you're right. It gets pretty cold, and it's a little bit of work to try to keep them warm when it's freezing cold outside. All right, Brody says, hello, my doe is due to kindle tomorrow. I'm excited. Awesome. Hopefully you have a good kindling. Almost said a good hatch. Lisa, so I have a group of jumbo quails that are molting and stopped laying. I also have a group of regular smaller quail who are not molting and are still laying. Is this unusual? No, that's pretty normal. My birds tend to molt a lot whenever there's a season change, either going from winter into spring or summer into fall, or I don't know why. They just do. It's pretty normal though. Give them a week or two, probably 2 weeks, close to that, and they'll come out of that and they'll be fine. Here's what Rhonda says to you, Sloth. Says, I have ducks, and they are huge compared to quail, and I don't think they would try to hurt them on purpose, but it would just happen because of the size difference. That would be my concern, too. Brody says, is it faster to grow kits out in a lawn tractor or in a cage? Faster in a cage because, you can control their diet, and you're feeding them only pellets. In a lawn tractor, they're going to be eating a lot of grass and those kinds of things. That will cause for slower growth. Now, it's a cheaper food bill, so, there's a trade-off there, but they will grow slower in a tractor than they would in a cage. All right, Jupiter says, hey, Chris, just had another question about those mortgage lifter tomatoes you recommended to me. How big does each tomato generally get? Are your plants still producing or done for the year? There's still a few tomatoes on the plants, but they're pretty much done. I kind of tend to, about this time of year, I kind of just give up on the garden, just let it go, because I get so busy, it seems like, and I just kind of forget about it, honestly. So they're pretty much done, though. You can get some pretty good sized tomatoes out of those mortgage lifters. They're a good, big, slicing tomato, probably, like that or so, is a good size one. Now, most of them aren't that big. It depends on how, lots of different things on that, honestly. But most of them, I'd say most of them are probably, about that big around, somewhere right around in there. A decent sized tomato, not a monster of a tomato, but a pretty decent slicing tomato. All right, Morella says, hello to you. Jupiter says, would you want to sell me any of the seeds for next year? Gotta buy them somewhere. I'm not sure if I have any seeds. Baker Creek's got them. That's who I would recommend getting them from. I don't mind selling seeds, but it's just, I can't promise you anything. I don't know if I have any extra seeds to sell. It's going to be more reliable probably to go through Baker Creek. So what is it? Is it rareseeds.com or heirloomseeds.com? Just look them up. Baker Creek on the internet. You'll find them, and they'll ship you the seeds. That's who I usually go through when I buy seeds. I don't know if I have any. If I have any, I would be happy to sell some. But again, I don't know when I'll get around to doing that. So it's probably a better bet to just go through Baker Creek. All right, Esom says, Chris, I've been thinking about raising some rabbits on grass in a chicken tractor to try to control the wild rabbit population from eating up my garden. Do you think this will work? I don't know if rabbits in a chicken tractor is going to help with the wild rabbit population. I don't think it'll make an impact on it at all. But hey, try it out and see. Who knows? All right, Timothy says, hey, Chris, I'm planning on getting a Brisnia Ovation 56X incubator for next year. Is this a good move, or should I buy a different incubator? I don't really know much about them, so I can't really tell you if it's a good incubator or not. 56X, I don't know if that means it incubates 56 eggs. And are we talking quail eggs or chicken eggs? I'm not familiar with it, so I'm sorry I can't tell you whether it's a good one or not. I can tell you if I was going to buy a new incubator, I'd probably buy a Humidity, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't know about the Brisnias, though. I'm sorry I can't answer that question for you. All right, Bill says, I bred 2 female rabbits, went 40 days and got nothing. Any ideas if it's the buck's problems or the doe's problem? If you bred 2 of them, it's probably the buck. And it could be summertime. You know, he went sterile maybe because of the heat. He's probably over it by now, or you know, depending on where you live, if it's starting to cool off a little bit, give him, you know, a couple of weeks or whatever, and he'll recover. But it's not uncommon for a buck to go sterile during the heat of summer, especially if it's over 80 degrees on a consistent basis. But that would be my guess. It's probably the buck if you bred 2 rabbits and nothing. All right, Morella says, what can I do if the humidity is too high in the incubator? Remove some water if you can. If you haven't already, make sure you pull out the plugs, the air plugs. Usually in the lid, there's 2 holes in the top, one in the front, one in the back, and there's little plugs in there. Pull those out and throw them away. That'll make your humidity drop a little faster, but they need that fresh air. They need that circulating air in the incubator. So that could be something you can do right there. Don't add as much water. Remove water if you need to, but don't stress too much about it. You know, honestly, the humidity gauge on the incubators are only so accurate. They're really not that accurate. The only way you can get truly accurate humidity readings is doing relative humidity, which is a little bit more complex, a little bit harder to do. But I wouldn't stress about it too much. I think you're probably going to be just fine. All right. Dixie Living Homestead says JWs. I don't know what that means. Did I say that? Are you asking me? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I'm lost. If I said it, I don't know what I was talking about. James says, please do a quail update. I do quail updates all the time, about once a week usually. I do some kind of quail update. I'll get to it. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about yet on videos for next week, but I'll get them done. All right, COD says, I have 250 quail and I sell them and their eggs. What do I do when they get old? Well, I would eat them. That's what I would do, but it's up to you. I don't know how, if you don't want to eat them, I'm not sure what to tell you what to do with them. You know, keep them healthy and happy until they die, I guess. I don't know. You might be able to find somebody to take some birds off your hands if you don't want them. I'm not really sure what to tell you to do with them after that. Buster says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Buster. I appreciate that. Tom says, hi, Tom from Toronto. Can the baby rabbit overfeed? That's not really a concern. I mean, I guess it could happen, but it's not really a concern with baby rabbits. It's rare for them, if ever, to overeat. To Live is to Suffer says, would a wine fridge be a good way to store quail eggs for incubating? It depends on the temperature it gets down to. If it gets down to below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it's probably not a good idea. But if you can keep it at like 55 to 60 degrees, it's perfect. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Rainy Day says, will quail eat too much ground oyster shell? No, they'll self-regulate on it, assuming you're not mixing it in with their feed. Offering it in a separate container, they'll eat as much as they need. They won't overeat it. All right. Richard says, hello from Agadir, Morocco, I think it is. Hello to you. Rhonda says, I'm determined to grow a garden for next year. I don't blame you. Gardens are great. Jupiter says, thank you for the tomato info. Have a great night. Thanks, Jupiter. You too. Good to see you again. Erie Quail Farm. Hello from Stuart, Florida. How many quails do you typically keep? Do you sell the eggs, meat, or are they only for your consumption? I do sell some birds occasionally. You know, I'll hatch out a bunch of eggs, and then I might sell a dozen or so birds to kind of help pay for feed costs, but I'm not a seller of quail necessarily. It's not something I do on a normal basis. You know, as far as how many birds I keep, you know, like through the wintertime, I usually keep about 24 birds, about 12 in each hutch. And then whenever I do, you know, meat birds, I mean, I can get up to 60 or 70 birds sometimes. But that's only for a short while until they get up to size, and then I process them. They go in the fridge. But I usually keep about 24 breeders, egg layers and breeders. I may go down to just 12 for the wintertime. I'm not sure yet. All right. Slosh says, I heard some quails can hatch on day 16. Is that true? Yeah, it can happen. It can happen on day 15, you know, for that matter. That's usually, if it's happening that early, day 15, it's usually a sign that your incubator temperature is probably just a little bit high, maybe just a half a degree high or something. But that's usually what the sign is of if they start hatching really, really early, it's just running a little bit hot. All right, Anna says, what's good spacing for the mesh the quails stand on? Mine too tight and catches the droppings. So I think I'm using, is it 1/2 inch hardware cloth? I believe that's what I'm using. I always forget the exact size. Is it, maybe 1/4 inch though. Let me check a note here. Let me see what it is. Let me see, where did I store that? Right there maybe. Give me a second. is that? Where is that? Okay, 1/2 inch. That's it. 1/2 inch hardware cloth is what I'm using. All right, Dixie Living Homesteading. There we go. JW's at the door. LOL. Oh,